pipes, drums, crowds, and masks that might keep a child awake at night for weeks. It's all part of a 3-day carnival in the Swiss city of Basle. It started at 4 o'clock on Monday morning when the city turned its lights out and lanterns lit up the parade that continued throughout the day. The Carnival of Basle, which is also the biggest carnival in Switzerland, is an event featured on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage List, which the organization describes as a blend of inherited traditions and modern practices that's important to communities. This tradition apparently dates back to the year 1376, and visitors and residents say there's nothing like this. It's part of the culture and identity of Basle, and it attracts curious onlookers from across the globe. The Middle East is the next place we're taking you today on The World from A to Z. I'm Carl Azuz. Thank you as always for giving us 9-ish minutes of your day. Since the latest war broke out between the Hamas militant group and the nation of Israel, another place where there's been violence is the Red Sea. On Tuesday, American officials said a U.S. drone was shot down in this area near the Middle Eastern nation of Yemen. They blamed a rebel group there called the Houthis, and that group also said it had targeted the American aircraft. The Houthis are supported by Iran. The Houthis and Iran are enemies of Israel. The rebels say they'll continue attacking ships they think are connected to Israel as long as that nation's war continues with Hamas. And the U.S. and its allies have been trying to protect ships in the Red Sea and strike back against the Houthis. A reporter embedded with the U.S. Navy shows us what that looks like aboard an American aircraft carrier in the region.
Here, off the coast of Yemen, U.S. warships try to shoot down the Houthi missiles before they can cause any real damage. But the sailors have little time to respond.
We could have seconds, or we could have minutes, based on, I wouldn't say much more than minutes.
The USS Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carrier, which the president ordered to the Red Sea in November in response to the Houthi attacks, has been working at a frenetic pace to keep up with the threat.
They have tried to target coalition forces, U.S. forces, through swarm attacks using multiple UAVs, using multiple anti-ship ballistic missiles and anti-ship cruise missiles. They are trying everything that they can, but we are prepared for anything that they might throw our way.
Fighter jets are launched from the Ike roughly 50 times per day, staying airborne for hours at a time so they can quickly strike targets inside Yemen and over the Red Sea.
We were woken up early this morning around 4:30 a.m. to the sounds of alarms blaring on this aircraft carrier, a sign, we are told, of a potential imminent threat by a Houthi drone that was flying over the Red Sea. That alarm indicating that these fighter aircraft behind me, they had to be ready to respond, potentially at a moment's notice.
That drone was quickly deemed no longer a threat, but it demonstrates how risky the mission is. The Houthis have also been trying to hit the jets flying over Yemen with surface-to-air missiles. With no end in sight to the Houthi attacks, U.S. officials tell CNN they don't know how much capability the rebels have left, as they continue to be resupplied by Iran.
The sustainability, we can go for a long time. We've got our logistics train already mapped out to stay here as long as the president needs us to stay here.
The word Dakota comes from a Sioux term meaning ally or friend, and we're happy to see our friends in North Dakota today. Mr. Johnson's class, thank you for watching from Schrader Middle School in Grand Forks. Just a few states south, we come to another place whose name is derived from Native Americans. We're in Kansas now, home of Mays South High School, home of Mr. Christensen's class in Wichita. On this date in world history. All aboard! A British engineer and inventor named Richard Trevithick debuted the first working steam locomotive on February 21st. That was back in 1804, and it was a revolution in human transportation. But it wasn't the only invention to make headlines on this date. American inventor John Greenough received a patent for his sewing machine on February 21st, 1842. It wasn't the first machine like this ever, but it was the first that was patented in the United States. And on this date in 1972, U.S. President Richard Nixon arrived in China, becoming the first American leader to visit there since 1949 after China's Communist Revolution. His trip helped re-establish diplomatic relations between the two countries, though that relationship has been tested in more recent years by their growing rivalry.
World of knowledge. According to legend, what landmark and the nations where it's located will crumble if its ravens ever leave? Taj Mahal, Stonehenge, Tower of London, Blue Mosque. The tradition of keeping at least 6 ravens likely dates back to England's King Charles II, which is why the Tower of London usually has a few extra.
Another day in London, another day stuck in traffic. The UK capital is among the world's most congested cities. And this frustration is encouraging a growing number of businesses to move from vans to electric cargo bikes.
We can get through the traffic faster, we can get across town quicker. Ultimately, it's cheaper for the folks who pay to use our services. We might be doing sort of 30, 40 deliveries a day on a cargo bike, a van, 8 to 10.
The environmental benefits are an aspect the local government wants to encourage. Transport for London estimates the move towards cargo bikes could save up to 30,000 tonnes of CO2 emissions a year. Individual traders are also making the change. Plumber Ben Hume Wright switched his Ford pickup truck for an e-cargo bike in 2021 and hasn't looked back. He still owns the old vehicle, but it's taken on a different function.
Several times a day, I come back to the van, which has become a glorified shed, in order to load up with any other bits I need for my 6 or 7 jobs of the day. I've just found that doing jobs by bike has been so much faster.
And he's found improvements in his mental health too.
I find that being stuck in traffic like this can make me feel quite pressured. If I need to get in a certain amount of jobs in a day, if I'm running late for an appointment, I know on my e-bike exactly when I'm going to arrive to the nearest minute or 2.
It's clear that the market is continuing to shift through the gears.
So they have some notable upsides, but e-cargo bikes aren't a solution everywhere for everyone. People who ride in urban areas will tell you some cities are more bike-friendly and safer to travel in than others. Same with climates. Areas prone to extremes make being without a car more difficult. Workers who have to carry a lot of heavy equipment or liquid or fragile materials could struggle on 2 wheels, especially if the battery needs recharging and your only power comes from pedaling. And while e-cargo bikes are cheaper to buy than new trucks, a basic model can still set you back more than $1,000, and a large capacity one can cost upwards of $8,000, which is well into motorcycle territory. And though e-cargo bikes aren't as fast as motorcycles, people concerned about the stability of 2 wheels and overall visibility in traffic might want something more substantial. So there are a lot of pros and cons in this newer transportation option.
RM Sotheby's is auctioning off a very unique car buff's dream. It's a Ferrari, minus the Ferrari, so to speak. It's called a dynamometer, a performance testing tool used for decades by the famous Italian automaker. This vintage unit is still fully functional and comes complete with a real Ferrari V12 engine that can be fired up at the turn of a key. Sotheby's expects it to nab anywhere from $125,000 to $175,000 at auction. Non-car buffs are probably like, why would anyone want this? Whereas car buffs be like, this would look great in my living room. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
Seriously, why chase another chase when you could have something dynamic? It'd go great with your Ferrari recliner, McLaren tables, Bugatti set, Porsche area rug, Audi dinner table, Tess love seats, pie curtains, and Vaux hallway lamps. All you need is the drive, the cash, the living room for it, and it's furniture to impress enthusiastic automotive visitors. I'm Carl Azuz for The World from A to Z. Thank you for watching. You mean the world to me.